Let's bring in Sharon Liko from Denver. She's a Colorado attorney who specializes in men's rights. And Sharon, does it help AMI or the National Enquirer in terms of these charges of blackmail if in fact they got the text from Lauren Sanchez's brother?
Not really. The question is why they're trying to use it. What's the motive behind trying to use it? But you have to wonder, why would Lauren Sanchez give the text to her brother? If it's personal, intimate communications, wouldn't one think she'd want to keep it personal and private? Instead, she gives it to her brother, and she knows that her brother's a Trump supporter. Who's the one fueling the fire here?
The attorney representing David Packer, the CEO of AMI, he says that it's not blackmailing, it's not extortion, but rather negotiations between two sides that want something from the other side. Where does the line cross, Sharon, between blackmail and simple negotiations?
That's going to be a fine line, and that's going to be a jury question, because if AMI is threatening to reveal personal, confidential, embarrassing photographs in exchange for something, that kind of borders on blackmail. Now, one could also argue, hey, this is just plain negotiation. We do this all the time. That's how two sides reach an agreement. Somebody gives this, the other person gives that, and together they have an agreement. So that would be AMI's defense. It's certainly an interesting perspective from Bezos. He certainly has the money to take on AMI, unlike most people that AMI attacks or features in their tabloid news. But it's also a really good offense, good defense. Takes the heat off of him in his personal life, and instead it puts it on AMI.
Given Michael's
illegal things.
Given the contacts and the connections that Michael Sanchez has in the Trump world and to some of the conservatives who are around him, is it possible that this starts to infect the Trump associates and perhaps even the president himself? If the president knew that AMI had dirt on Jeff Bezos and the president was, I don't know, somehow encouraging these attacks on Bezos because he owns the Washington Post?
Boy, I don't know. That's kind of that's a stretch, and
Sure.
Then there also is the right, to free speech in this country. Just because you say something negative about somebody doesn't mean that you've committed a crime. You do have the right to make statements, and if it's politically motivated, I guess that's sort of in the so what category. If it's politically motivated, so be it. Is it extortion? Is it blackmail? Now, as if this is the first newspaper to publish something that might be politically motivated?
That's right. But in the court of public opinion, which side of this dispute do you think has suffered a bigger blow to its reputation? Is it Bezos or the National Enquirer?
Probably the National Enquirer.
And does the National Enquirer, does their standing, does it depend on whether or not, and you mentioned this earlier, you sort of wonder how does, Michael Sanchez sort of give this to the National Enquirer when it's his own sister? Let's suppose for argument's sake that she did not willingly show these texts to her brother. I don't know, maybe they're around at Thanksgiving together and he sort of grabs the phone and sends them off. Does that change things if it appears to the National Enquirer that they know that this was not voluntarily given to them as far as Lauren Sanchez is concerned?
That's arguable. I mean, where the source gets their information is up to that source. And if they pass that information on, I'm not sure that the National Enquirer has a duty to investigate whether or not that was voluntarily given, that was anonymously given or received. At what point does the fact that the information is given to them, is that just sufficient? And the person doesn't have to worry about being indicted or prosecuted or persecuted because of the way the information came about.
It certainly is an interesting case. Sharon Liko,
why would he have it? Why would the brother have the information? I mean,
that's the question I want to know. Sharon Liko, Colorado men's rights attorney. Sharon, thanks so much.